Oh, well, I have more pens.
Oh, I just need one because I don't use regular pens.
She just needs it.
We have a lot to get through today, so I want to make sure we can start as close to space as possible.
Very open.
It's fine.
That would explain everything.
I brought no injuries, she gets just.
Only because he was here.
No, I'm fine.
It was upside down there. I have to prep the memo and get it over to SPPD. I know Chief Henry's out.
It's your second to last.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Who said anything about that?
I believe you can do nothing.
Yes.
I have 100% confidence.
I don't really want you to go. Let me know.
All right, I'm gonna call us to order just because we do have a pretty packed agenda today. So Commissioner Rodenberg, is there a second? Commissioner Forstrom,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moved by Commissioner Rodenberg, is there a second? Commissioner Florman for the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Two potential commissioner candidates, and we did forward one name to the mayor's office for appointment, so that will move through the ordinance. We are only allowed 3 absences in a calendar year. If the 3 are met, then the mayor's office can make the decision to remove Commissioner Yu being here for every meeting we're able and being here 15 minutes early to get set up. There was a change to open meeting laws on how we will roll this out to the commission, but it is being evaluated and there's more to come on that. Back August 1st, that the city attorney is reviewing regarding investigative bodies or oversight bodies being able to ask so that we can review what those changes are.
I'm sorry, Terry, did you just say complainants giving testimony would be anybody?
Anybody, okay,
So
thank you.
complainants or.
Presentation regarding the new Minnesota marijuana laws and SPPD, and Brandon Peterson is going to give us an overview of what that looks like.
In a way, it was something new to learn. Arguably, as the chief has said, the cannabis laws are probably a bigger change for law enforcement officers, and there's going to be more training coming in October, November for all of our staff. But I think that grace will be necessary as everyone tries to work through what 600 some pages, I believe, of changes that are being evaluated still by city attorneys and county attorneys all across the state. So there's a lot of changes, but just to give you, as police officers, it's federal law that we cannot have firearms and be using cannabis. So police officers in our city, that drug paraphernalia is illegal. So as you'll hear me talk over the next few minutes, education is really important to the chief here because it's going to take some time for ordinances to match up with the new laws. And some cities, I believe Duluth, for example, has already come out and said that cannabis use in public places is illegal. Effective August 1st of this year, that cannabis is now allowed in private residences, on private property that's not accessible to the public, and on the premise of a business regulated before, such as arenas, auditoriums, banquet facilities, bars and restaurants, bowling alleys, libraries, factories, employing the public about. The chief has said that our number one thing is going to be educating the public whenever possible. We have not been, and you can start reading about some of this for yourself, and those are in the final stages of development. Cannabis is not allowed in a motor vehicle property, and another big point in the new statute is that anywhere the smoke could be inhaled by a minor, and obviously that could be somewhat arbitrary.
Question, you said it's not allowed in cars. Is that just the consumption or can it be transported in cars?
Good question, and I'll come up to that. This is still just the use
Just
section.
all use.
Housing building. So if you think of any apartment building in the city, cannabis would be prohibited in any type of multifamily or apartment building in the city. Flower, and flower is the legislative term. That's not a term that we have generally used in law enforcement, but flower is the term that they used in all of their statutes, and that basically means from where it was sold or manufactured. And that is a challenging statute because there's nowhere in Minnesota yet that is selling it with that type of packaging. So oregano as our department, so we could put it into a package and show our officers, this is what 2 ounces looks like, and this is what 2 pounds looks like, and it of course have to be, and so there's gonna be a lot of more to come, I think, on that. Gifting of cannabis is allowed by statute, so you can give cannabis to someone else as long as 2 locations in Minnesota that are selling it legally now already, I believe White Earth and there's another spot farther north. We'll have 2 doses of Narcan now instead of 1. We've gone through with the officers what those possession crimes look like.
Commander, just a quick question. So clearly with all the odd nuance and stuff like that and sort of learning as we go, does SPD
See police reports, they've actually modified that system in preparation for this. So any case involving marijuana now has a checkbox, the office.
Thank you guys.
Sure, that's a great question. I don't think any of the laws changed around that.
It'll be trial and error to see how it's found in the child and then what happened and so forth.
Yeah, that's potentially outside of the driver.
Okay, or reduction, like it's like no longer an enhancement because it's now legal or something like that.
And I haven't seen that either. There is a very large section of the massive undertaking, as you all can imagine.
Yep, thank you.
Yes, of course.
Commissioner Schlunder.
I imagine this will be added to the Civilian Police Academy.
Highlight for 20 minutes during the CPA.
Okay.
20 minutes, 6 hours.
This is Chair Hayes.
It was because we saw what the potential outcome was for this, and we saw how other states were having difficulty tracking data, and we wanted to get out of.
Maybe quarterly to get an update, since this is a pretty big new piece of policy in the city around what we're seeing for trends particularly. And additionally, if there are policies getting drafted to go into the policy manual, it would be really helpful for us to be able to take a look.
This has not been our priority for a long time, much like with motor vehicle violations, you know, when we was to try to get away from that, and the chief knows that. So I think that I wouldn't probably predict that's going to happen, but yes.
And said, still, the most prevalent drug that's prevalent in violent crime is still marijuana. This is after the edible alive and passed.
We call it here's the story at work, you know, like here's kind of some updates, and I'll certainly check with her on
Thanks.
Deputy
Who choose to use, they can test their drugs beforehand.
transport and how much of that is, what does that look like, I guess?
that. Yes, there are limits to the edible regularly anyway. The bulk of what we're dealing with is going to be the flower, and there is a linkage to those violent crimes still, I believe. Statute Delta variant. I want to say 8 or 9 was the old one, and 9 is the new one, but I'm getting beyond my experience here.
We may see some complaints that come forward, and it's helpful to understand what the goal of the department is, and then be able to move forward as a team assessing complaints.
Gator, and she's wonderful. I'll let her introduce herself very briefly to the group. So.
Well, thank you. Like Jake said, my name is Amy Boyd.
What areas have you worked in?
So I worked patrol, I worked the squad car, the squad car midnights for a long time on the east side. That's where I was born and raised.
Any questions for our brand new addition to the team? All right. Any other SPP?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Has been approved by the mayor. The next step is the city council. Our main priority in the department for me and deputy director. And the impact of having 15 people who need retraining and retraining and retraining. Pass it over to equipment for the outreach portion.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Hey everyone, good to see you all. So, labor standards laws, the anti-discrimination laws, as well as the PCIARC, and the different options folks have for filing a complaint. And then we will also be at the Eastside Freedom Libraries having a Labor Day event. And so some of the HERO team will also be there. So we hope
There hopefully is still time for some body to, get involved, tell them that. Yeah.
For those, once we get through this higher level. Coordinator Cumberland.
Thank you, Chair Hayes. That is a great question. So we only recently started, I believe it was last year, this first started becoming.
Any other thoughts, questions? Coordinator Cumberland, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Hayes. And so, I thought that was a really interesting data point. Chair Hayes asked me to aggregate the data based on like the PCR's recommendations based on.
Commissioner Rodenberg sent me an email earlier today, and I'm wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about your thoughts on.
Non-binary people or transgender or so forth. So what are the policies and protocols with that? I was kind of curious about that, given our.
And their bias in how they're approaching other members of the community, either based on their size differential, their perceived power differential. How are we?
The Civilian Police Academy.
Oh, okay.
So, anyways, I think the training exists, and I think a refresher is a great idea.
Based on the case lineup for this month, which I won't say too much about, but it sparked my interest to look at that number. And so on the complaint, this is one data point that I was able to pull relatively quickly, but I would certainly be open to digging into other information if there are certain metrics that interest the commission.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is more about, we're seeing this discrepancy with gender. Are we going to see a similar discrepancy with age?
Those data points might help us target outreach as well.
Yeah.
Right, we might just not be getting the message to males in our community that this is a resource that's available.
Got it.
If I may,
Director Commerce.
yeah, if I may, that's inferred gender, because we don't have all of the, we don't.
It's based on that data.
But we'll never get a whole picture. But that's why it's inferred, because we don't always know.
Yeah, or internal affairs, yeah.
And data. All right, so our final agenda topic for the open meeting portion is a discussion regarding the PCR file disposition and discipline one pager, and you all have a copy of that in your agenda packet. That gets saved to our BDI each month when cases are. Commissioner Forstrom and I met with Deputy Director Commerce, Coordinator Cumberland, Assistant Chief Surveyor. Thank you. And ordinance states that the commission shall develop policies and procedures to guide the work of the commission. There are no provisions in the SOPs that you also have and policy failure and disciplines of oral reprimand, written reprimand, suspension, demotion, and termination with an option. So we have before us a decision to make as a commission around whether we're not opening up any other portions of the bylaws because it is important to get very robust community engagement. But as a commission, about where these documents came from, about what the discussion that was had between city staff and SPPD, and then we'll go from there. Yep, thank you. Commissioner Schlender.
So, when commended and supervisory counseling were added, at what point were they added?
Yeah, Commissioner Forstrom.
Yeah, I can provide a hair more clarity on that, which is in past, having been on the commission for a number of years now, I can't say for sure whether that was the case, but the miss there was that, hey, look, you're changing something like that, so you probably want to change the bylaws. That's where the disconnect occurred. At some point,
So at this point, what I would like to do is open the floor to any motions and the advisory counseling to discipline. Those are the three motions for this purpose, since we're keeping the discussion very narrow. That would be on the.
I do think due process is really critical and it's important, and I believe that previous members of the commission had the best.
I understand that point. I also have found that I mostly want to recommend supervisory counseling. In fact, I have.
Deputy Director Commerce.
I never get that right, I'm so sorry. Chair Hayes, when we would be very deliberate about asking to go speak to some organizations, we would invite you, we would, create the opportunity for.
The commission around earned safe and sick time, or are you referencing an ordinance?
I'm referencing rules around an ordinance.
So,
I think Sarah, I should have had it. Okay.
and I'm just gonna ask another question. Would the mayor's,
And how we're spending our time in class. As a matter of fact, you know, what's.
in support of these specific potential additions? That's
We would
more
not
my
be
question.
advocating questions for you, gather feedback and.
Yes. Commissioner Rodenberg.
So, I have a question of Commander Peterson. I believe in the
Peterson.
I think that conversation was around discipline, and the conversation was that in any situation, the office meeting / coaching, mentoring, training time, and that's, I believe, what you're discussing here now.
And to that point, recommend an oral reprimand, and it's considered a departure from what the commission recommends.
Okay. Okay, well, that's helpful, so, I'm in favor of, following option for officers to get some education this away. But before the bylaws have the opportunity to be changed anyway, then I would be reassured with your motion.
I have to deal with it, but these things are part of the agreement. The community overwhelmingly wanted us to be able to recognize, and so the I would also just, my own personal opinion, it needs to be to some degree neutral advocacy body or neutral body, just to kind of keep those things in mind, and in fact, how some of these sort of came to provide some of the background, and then let you all make your decisions.
Commissioner Schillender.
I want to echo what Commissioner Morrison said. I think we amended act, for example, help. And here's maybe some reasons why not. I buy-in and that check the box. That if we're going to do that, we should just vote tonight. Neutral manner.
Public engagement is really important for this process. That's a huge part of why. But supervisory counseling has because it's, to me, it seems their boss should be talking to them about it. So that, to me, is a given that there's going. So I guess that's kind of my 2 cents on the whole thing.
So I'm a strong believer in professional assumed that people or sergeant advocating for a leaving committee.
Commissioner Schillender.
My role in supervisory counseling, we've got assurance from Commander Peterson that this happens.
Right.
Because that's essentially what we're saying, is none, other than, I do think this probably requires, stick with the bylaws, and then I think we can craft what is it we would want to get public input on to move forward, and not squirrel in these